Welcome to April Marketing Talk. So whether this is your first time joining an event with us, or if you've been to a previous marketing talk, a huge thanks for choosing to spend your Friday afternoon with us. So today we have an exceptional speaker, and following some great feedback from our last event, we're also again going to be having some dedicated time later in the session for you to meet and connect with everyone else on the call. So by way of introduction, my name is Megan. Some of you may remember me from when I presented at Marketing Talk back in November last year. I spoke about content marketing, but I'm not your usual host. The wonderful Catherine Loftus is usually your host, but today Catherine is helping Bird and Blend open back up their UK stores. She's their head of brand. So in her absence, I'll be hosting. Oh, we've got a horrible sort of lockdown reality of my face now and the photo. That's a shame. So very quickly, who am I? I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Lucidity. So this slide, a little bit about Lucidity. We're a software business based in Brighton. We have a SaaS platform that helps businesses of all shapes and sizes to build a strategy plan in a really quick and easy way. And then it gives them the tools to communicate that plan out to their people and to execute it perfectly and grow their business. Before joining Lucidity, I was a global head of marketing at Magix, which is another Brighton-based tech company. And before that, I was in business book publishing, so developing and marketing business content from top business leaders and authors. So that's me. Hello. So a little more about Marketing Talk. So this is our 6th event now. We started Marketing Talk as a way to bring together marketers from all backgrounds and industries and career stages who are looking to take their skills to the next level. So we'll bring you, and we do bring you, brilliant speakers who share their advice and their insights on not just marketing strategies, but also on how to develop your business skills and your personal skills, so a bit of personal development. Everyone who comes along, all of you guys are invited to speak too. So getting that first experience of public speaking under your belt is incredibly empowering. So give it a go, even if just for a few minutes. So please let me know if you're interested in doing that. You can feel free to send me a chat in the Zoom window here during the session, or indeed send me an email. I'll give my email at the end. Send me an email during or afterwards if you want to speak at another event. So today, as I mentioned, we're really looking forward to tapping into that community side a bit more, which is something we've really wanted to do for ages, and we did it on the last Marketing Talk. Worked really nicely. So I really can't wait to hear about some of the connections that you're able to make today. So Silicon Brighton also have a fantastic community hub where you can keep the discussion going after these events, and we'll tell you more about that later. So yes, today's agenda. So this is how we're going to run things. So we will talk in a sec, give you a bit of a background and info on exactly what Silicon Brighton, who we are and what we do. And then at 1:45, we'll kick off our keynote session, which is a fireside chat, a Q&A with Ahmed. And so Az's theme for our discussion is Hooray for marketing generalists. Then at 1:35, we will move into our community discussion and networking session. So here we'll split into small breakout sessions. So you'll all have an opportunity to chat with others on the call today, share your own experiences about the journey that you've had through the marketing industry. And then at 10:02, we will regroup, sum up. So first, I'd like to introduce Steve from Silicon Brighton, who can tell us a bit more about the brilliant work that those guys do. Steve.
Thanks, Megan. That video seems to be longer and longer every time we play it. I think that's taken up all my time slot. Megan, thank you. And hi, everyone. Following from Megan, I just want to say a massive thanks to everyone for joining us today. My name is Steve, and I am one of the co-founders of Silicon Brighton, and we are super chuffed to be supporting Marketing Talk. I'll give you a little bit about us. We are a community-led initiative to support digital growth in the city. We began what feels like a lifetime ago, actually, but just 18 months back in late 2019. And we started working with local groups to help raise their profile and provide individuals, just like everyone here, with free opportunities for networking, training, upskilling and development. And the aim is to try and help everyone benefit through the sharing of expertise and the forming of new connections and partnerships. Today we have run, so I'm having a BBC moment here with my little one. So today we have run and supported only over 70 events, and we've given a platform to hundreds of speakers to share their knowledge. If you haven't come across Silicon Brighton before, then I'd urge you to take a few minutes later to visit the website. It's siliconbrighton.com, where you can learn about our upcoming events and browse through some of the great resources and speaker talks we have from previous sessions. You can also sign up to our monthly newsletter via the website footer, which will help you stay informed about what's happening locally in tech. We couldn't do everything that we do without support from our partners, and quite recently we've had a bit of help from, I think they have a slide here. Do we have a slide for County Business? Yeah, cool, fantastic. So yeah, I want to say a little shout out to the County Business Clubs. Really nice group, actually. They've recently shared a few initiatives that we've been running and promoted a few events for us, which we're super grateful. So I really want to tell you about them. They're a growth engine, a new growth engine for Sussex businesses. It's a collaborative initiative to bring together the Sussex business community to support and grow businesses locally. So within their platform, you can connect to the community, you can share information through their hub, and you can also sell through their marketplace. So as part of their partnership with us, they've actually offered to give everyone a free 3 months on their platform, and then a bit of a discount moving forward. So I will drop into the chat shortly how you can take up on that. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I hope everyone enjoys today's session. And just on a final note, I'd like to say that we're really keen to hear from anyone watching who would like to explore how they can contribute to Silicon Brighton. I'm quite certain there's a tremendous amount of expertise here today. If any of you have any knowledge or experience that you're willing to share for the benefit of our industry, then please get in touch. That could be speaking at an event, helping with a workshop, or even starting your own meetup group. I will include my contact details in the follow-up to the event, and hope you enjoy the meetup. Thank you. Cheers, Megan.
Hi, right, thanks, Steve. Okay, so I'm now really excited to introduce you to today's speaker, Az Ahmed. So Az has a remarkable background, and the team were so delighted that he agreed to speak, and his talk today really embodies everything we're about here at Marketing Talk. So he's a talented marketing manager, over a decade of really diverse experience. So he's currently employed as the marketing manager of Oban International, who are a digital marketing agency based here in Brighton that specialise in helping clients to grow internationally and to take their business into new markets for the first time. And Az has worked with clients across a range of sizes and market sectors, and is skilled at helping businesses find success in any market through offering bespoke services in cultural localization, strategy, paid search, SEO and content. In the past, he's worked as a customer success manager at Pi Diametrics, a research intelligence a SaaS company, and also been a senior marketing consultant for Smart Focus and at Vocus UK. So his focus today is Hooray for Marketing Generalists, and we'll explore how we as marketing professionals can find confidence in our chosen career paths, even if we have more general experience that spans lots of different industries and channels and markets. And he'll also be sharing some ways to promote yourself if you do have more general experience, and how with some sort of forethought and strategizing, you can often leverage a broader background in marketing to benefit your own career journey. And ultimately, the goal of today's talk is to create some space for sort of conversation. So we hope you feel comfortable to share your own experiences without judgment too. And we've set aside plenty of time, as I said earlier, at the end of the talk for us to be able to do just that and to get into breakout sessions. So, hello.
Hi, Megan. Nice to be here.
Great. It's great to have you. So
Yeah,
do you want to kick off? And
Yeah, sure. So I've got a little presentation I wanted to share about my experience. I'm just going to share that now. Please excuse the design. I am not a designer, but here you go. So I wanted to just take the first 5 minutes to just talk about my career and the journey I've been on. So as you can probably hear, I have a bit of an American accent. So I was born in the Middle East. I was born in Kuwait. I'm originally from Pakistan. I grew up in the 80s and I went to American high schools, so hence the American accent. My first job was an unpaid internship for BMW in Pakistan. And I did data entry for 3 months solid. So they would, every morning I'd sit down at my desk, they would give me a massive wad of printouts, and my job was to go through line by line to see if the correct car that was in that sheet was that had appeared at the port had been imported. So I did that for 3 months. It was soul destroying and it was unpaid, but sometimes you have to do unpaid things to get into the industry. My first paying job in Pakistan was in PR. So I was an account executive, and the highlight of that was I had to wear a tie every single day in 40-degree heat, which wasn't fun. But I had a great boss, and it was a great learning experience for me. My first job in the UK. So I then moved to the UK to do an MBA, and I did an MBA from Coventry University. And my first job was a marketing assistant in the rail freight industry, which is very random. It was a company that was doing consulting for rail freight, and I was their marketing assistant. So I did the usual stuff, maintained the website, filled in grant entries for them, answered queries from potential clients, and I made a lot of tea, lots and lots of tea. That was something that was my first introduction to the UK, was how much we love tea here, and I made so much tea. My next job, I moved industries. I went from rail freight to property investment. So big jump. Again, had no experience of property investment, had no idea what property investment was, but maintained their website, created brochures, did their email marketing, and the highlight of that job was that I got fired. So that was my entry and exit from property investment. I then moved into marketing consultancy, which I absolutely loved. And my next job was for a company called Vocus, and it was a SaaS company in tech. I was commuting to London every day, and I was consulting with a select group of clients, which was great. Created strategic plans for them, produced marketing documents, and for the first time in my career, I was made redundant. They got rid of an entire department, and me along with it. I then moved to becoming a senior marketing consultant for another tech company called Smart Focus. We consulted with some blue chip clients, and I created strategic plans and did marketing consultancy for them. The highlight of that job was that I worked exclusively with BMW for 6 months. And going from an unpaid internship at the beginning of my career with BMW to actually working with them for 6 months solidly was great. And again, I was made redundant. So they got rid of about 100 people, and I was one of them. You can see a theme here. My next job, so this job was a bit of a shift for me. So I went from marketing consultancy to customer success. I'd never done customer success before. And the reason was that I was commuting to London for my last job and my son was born. And I thought I want to stick around in Brighton a bit more to be here and, spend more time with my son. So I took a job as a customer success manager. Had a large number of clients, it was great, very big, really good learning experience for me. But I did have a difficult time with my boss who micromanaged me a lot, and that was a bit of a challenge. And actually, for the first time in my career, I was signed off sick with stress. So, that was something that I had to deal with. And being made, signing off sick with stress from a job is never fun. And again, big learning experience on that. And for the third time in my career, I was made redundant. So if anybody on the call wants any, advice on being made redundant and how you bounce back, let me know later in the chat and I can help you out. My current job is I'm a marketing manager for an international digital agency. It's great boss, great company. Really excited to be back in marketing after customer success. I'm now managing a team, and I'm doing a lot more strategic marketing for them. So that's a bit about my career and stuff. So that's me.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing that, Az. I mean, a really wide range of experience there, which is really interesting. So sort of broadly overall, what are some of the real advantages of having a sort of more general marketing experience, would you say?
Sure. So I sometimes feel like, if you, without meaning to, people that work in similar roles for their whole career, or they work with similar companies their entire careers, they can start to think the same way. And sometimes, having different experience from different industries and different markets, different sectors, can bring something new, something fresh to the table. And sometimes being an outsider can just, you can see things that might need to be changed or upgraded or made better, which people working in that role or that company may not have seen. So I think having a differing experience of different industries can be a big advantage.
Great. And then I suppose, can you share any particular examples where that sort of broad range of knowledge has enabled you to, solve a particular problem or set a particular strategy because you've got an alternative point of view?
Yeah, sure. So a few examples of that, like in the past, as I mentioned, I've worked for tech companies and, software as a service companies. And just doing that, you get a good understanding of technology, processes, and how to get systems to talk to each other. So in my current role doing marketing, we do have to have different systems and different technology. And, migrations have to happen at certain times. And at the moment, I'm currently going through a migration. I've just finished one from one CRM platform to another one. And if I didn't have that sort of, tech and process driven experience, I think this migration would have taken twice as long and things. So, just those sorts of things can help you in your current career. And it may not seem like it when you're doing it at the time, but different things can come up at different times and you could be like, oh, so now I have that experience to do it. And it may not seem like it at the time, but all experience is sometimes good experience. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually I have a sort of similar experience because you're right now working in the, I wasn't always in the tech industry, but working in the tech industry now in software, particularly, have obviously, you build up a much better understanding of tech and software. And because so much of marketing now is software driven and powered by software, that extra level of understanding, you're right, gets you to solutions much faster. And you realize that things can be done. You can start getting involved with the APIs. When I was in publishing, I had no idea what an API was.
I didn't even know.
And if something wasn't a native integration or out the box, I would think, well, it's not human. No one could do
exactly.
it. Yeah, so I completely agree with that. And then what would, sort of on that note, what advice would you give then to marketers who are looking to move into a new industry or a new sector that don't have that specific sort of narrow experience? So being maybe jumping from B2C, from B2C to B2B, or I don't know, from retail to tech or whatever. What sort of advice would you give?
Yeah, sure. So I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is keep at it, don't give up. It can be a daunting task when you first look at it. So like, moving industries can be really hard. And, whenever you look at job specs and things, they always say, oh no, I need somebody who's done exactly this. And you're like, why, right? And it always makes me question, why do they want somebody who's done exactly that? And exactly, it can be a daunting task. But if you want to move industries or make the switch, you have to be relentless. It's just making sure that you don't give up. Just keep at it. It's also true that if you belong to any sort of minority group or any group that's overlooked, it can be harder. But I'd say set your priorities of your career, make a plan, see where you want to get to, and say, how do I get there? Like, what steps do I need to take to get there? And it could be that your next job isn't in that sort of same industry, but figure out whether that job is leading you on that path, whether it's the next step. Find out where you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years, and stick to that plan. If that means retraining, learning new skills, or even starting at a lower position, you should see if you can do that. I completely get that this isn't possible for a lot of people. Like retraining, for example, it isn't an option. It isn't an option for me because, I have a family, a mortgage, and as many people will attest to, being an adult is hard. You got to pay the bills. So, a lot of time retraining isn't possible, but see what you can do. See if you can learn a different skill in the evenings, maybe, taking free courses, doing that sort of stuff. And also see what sort of support you can get. If you want to move, for example, from B2B to B2C, that can be hard to do. So, when you're in B2B, everybody's like, that's it, I want B2B experience. Or if you're in B2C, they're like, that's it, you've only got B2C experience. So I would say, take it in steps. So for example, if you wanted to if you currently worked for a B2B tax software provider, for example, and you wanted to move to a B2C role, maybe find something that in the B2C sector that is selling tax as a software to individuals. Maybe make that jump, and then maybe make the jump to a different type of software selling to individuals, and then maybe make the jump to a product or something. So, it's hard if you move straight from B2B tax software to marketing high-end watches, for example. But, if you can work out that path and the steps you need to, you can get there. And, with everything, it takes time, it takes energy, and just if you put in the work, you can do it.
So that's really interesting about sort of crafting your career path. So having an idea of exactly what, ideal situation, what you would be doing, and if it's completely different, if it's a different sort of industry or market or whatever, then take steps to get there. That's really interesting. Is that something that you've done, and where on your journey are you?
Yeah, so I think I've yeah, sure. So I've tried to do that. I think, there'll always be things thrown in the mix that you weren't expecting. For me, it was having a kid. So, that like, having a kid isn't part of it. And like, I was commuting to London and stuff like that. So, if I would have stuck working in London, I could be somewhere else. But, I think your priorities change. And for me, my priorities changed. And I think I'm now looking to, move up the marketing ladder. My next role, I wanted to move maybe head of marketing and then maybe move into CMO territory. So I've got that sort of plan, and I'm now working out how to get there and how to get there in the right sort of industry. So, by all means, keep at your plan. wrenches will be thrown in the works, but keep at it. And for some people, if you're happy being where you are, that's great as well. It's just, if you want to stay where you are at the moment, just see how you can get better and progress and stuff within your role. But yeah, always have a plan and always have a goal.
Great. And then so a bit of sort of practical advice on how to make those moves. Do you have, and actually Theodore's asked a question, and it's a question that I definitely have. Any tips on demonstrating transferable skills? So does this need to be done immediately on the cover letter? What's the best way to frame your experience on your CV, and indeed then at the interview stage, if you're moving to a different sector?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. And so the way I look at it is that, it's something that's said all the time, but do a bespoke CV and cover letter for every single job. I know it's hard. I know that it takes a lot of time, but don't send out the same CV and same cover letter for every job. It stands you apart. And also tailor your cover letter to the skills that the job is looking for. Highlight the skills that the job spec is talking about. Big yourself up when on the things you did in your current and previous roles that match with what they're looking for in the new role. And this is especially important if you're trying to move industries of sectors. Look at the industry you're trying to move to, see how you can maybe reframe things in your current experience that could apply across the board, and could also apply to that industry you want to move to. Talk about specific examples of things you did and achieved, and especially if you can put some sort of numbers around it, that's always great, because numbers are universally translatable. It's like, if you did X% increase in something, that can be translated to a different industry. And when it comes to interview stage, I would always say research the company you're interviewing for and the industry, and go into the interview like you know what you're talking about. Know the industry, look at trends, look at the market that they apply in, and see if you can do anything from your past experience that could be applied to that market or that interview or that industry. For the interview, I always say, a lot of the time now in interviews, companies ask you to do tasks and little things that they want to see your knowledge. But I would always say go in and do the research and find something that you can improve on. So look at their website. If their website can be fixed, give them examples of things they can fix in their website. If their social channels can be beefed up, talk about that. If there's some new idea of something that you've come up with for that particular company and that industry, do that and go into the interview ready to present that. Because I think that just stands you out, and it just shows you that you've done the research. Even if you've come from a different industry, they could be like, oh, this guy knows, or this person knows what he or she are talking about. And, it just stands you apart and shows how you can use different knowledge for a different industry.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, in fact, your point about putting data in there, putting results and numbers. I've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of CVs and resumes of marketers in my time, and you would be surprised how few marketers put numbers in there. I want to see percentage uptake. I want to see lifts in MQLs, and I want to see conversion rates. I want to see traffic increase. And so few people do that. And being able to put numbers instantly will get someone's attention. And you're absolutely right. Everyone understands what a percentage increase is. No matter what industry you are. And if you go in and saying, I am someone that can increase your traffic by this much, can improve your lead generation by this much, can bring your cost per lead down, can bring your acquisition cost down, etc., etc., they are immediately going to get your attention. So I think that's a great bit of advice, Az, and I would say really concentrate on getting data-driven and analytical to improve your skills, because growth is the ultimate transferable skill, right?
Exactly.
If you grow things, then you'll be wanted, rather than it being, you do also need to do some of the fluffy stuff and talk
of
about,
course.
you know, what you know and how it's transferable, blah blah blah. But really, yeah, I think that's brilliant advice, just to focus on growth.
Yeah, and it's also pretty easy to do. So all marketers will have their own KPIs. They'll have team KPIs, and just department KPIs. Just put those in there and just say what those numbers are, and then how you hit them and how you met those numbers. It's pretty simple to do. Just take whatever your KPIs are and how you've achieved them, and just put them in your CV or in your cover letter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, about if it's a different industry to the one you're in now or the one you've been in, you are therefore potentially got a disadvantage where other people have come from the industry. So if you research the living daylights out of the industry and go in just really knowing your shit, and lay out some statistics and things, then you can sort of lay that concern to rest that they might.
Yeah, sure.
Might have.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because and as I said earlier, for minority groups or people that are overlooked, sometimes you have to stand out more, and it's a bit sad that you do have to do a bit more. You have to do almost double. So yeah, I would say research, do as much desk research as you can. Talk to people, just go on LinkedIn, find people in that industry, and people are always willing to help on LinkedIn. Go on Clubhouse, join a room in Clubhouse about that industry. Just listen to people, listen to podcasts about it and stuff. And, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do to make yourself more knowledgeable about that industry and that market. And yeah, as you say, it just helps show that you know the industry and you know what you're talking about, even if you've come from a different one.
Yeah, great. Steve's put an interesting question here. If you're hiring, are there any tips on writing job descriptions and reviewing applications to ensure that too much weight isn't put on similar previous experience? The temptation is always there to find people who can hit the ground running, but that doesn't help with diversity or experience in some cases.
Yeah, so I would always say, if you're hiring, just don't discount people if they come from a different industry. Just it's tempting, because I get it's hard. There's so many CVs to go through, so many cover letters to go through. But I would say don't discount somebody if their experience looks interesting, or if they've done something interesting. Give them a chance. Like, write the job description so that talk about. There's always that section which says that things that you'd like to have. So just put things that you'd like to have in that. Say, different industry experience is also welcome and things like that, just so people who might not apply would say, oh, I'll give that a go. And there's a whole thing that especially true for people that they sometimes get put off for applying, and they say, oh, unless I have that exact experience, then they're not going to want me. I would say still apply, and still the hiring managers, I would say, still look at people's CVs, just look at them, just go to their LinkedIn, see what they're talking about and stuff. So it is tough to do, but I would say don't discount people based on previous experience.
Would you recommend that people address that, if they are from a completely different industry, address that point straight away in the cover letter? Or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's always put your best foot forward. So I would say, talk about how good you are at your job, and kind of maybe talk about industry later, but just say that, this is the thing, these are the marketing tools that I have, the skill set I have, the experience I have. And it's kind of up to people or hiring people to say, oh, that experience definitely doesn't fit the industry. But if you start saying these are the marketing skill, this is the marketing skill set I have, these are the things, the demonstrable things I've done in my current role, these are the numbers I've achieved, these are the KPIs that I've achieved and met, and all this stuff, then I think you're putting yourself forward in the best light possible. And then it's up to people to say, oh, this person or he or she is incredible. but their industry doesn't match, so I'm going to discount that. That would be a shame. But if you, yeah, I'd put my best foot forward to begin with.
Okay, great. And then, are there any particular sort of tools or resources that you'd recommend that marketers who are currently have a more maybe narrow set of experiences and want to broaden out? Are there any particular sort of tools or resources that would help them grow their skill set, do you think?
Yeah, I've kind of mentioned it before, like, doing online courses, do desk research, but you could, again, based on your plan, where you want to get to, research that, how to get there, find other people that have made that journey from moving industries and stuff, and see what sort of setbacks, challenges they came across and things. And also read widely, read everything, read industry publications, read pop science books, just like, increase your knowledge about different industries and things. And it'll give you that sort of experience and that knowledge about other industries, other markets, other sectors. And the other point I'd say is find someone or a group of people that you can bounce ideas off of or ask for advice from. Mentors. We always, like in the industry, we talk about mentors a lot. I've never had a mentor in my career, but I have a great group of friends who I worked with at a previous role, and we all work in marketing and we all talk about our careers. We have a WhatsApp group and we've now become really good friends. And we talk about our careers and marketing in general. And never having had a mentor in my career, these three women that are great friends of mine that I look up to, they're kind of the closest thing to a mentor or mentors I have. So I would say just, if you can find mentors, if you can find people that are maybe at the same level as you even, and all of you go on that journey together, just find people and maybe put the call out on LinkedIn, say, just find people to be mentors that you look up to and just send them a message, say, would you mind being my mentor? This is what I want to do. And, I think if somebody has the time, why would they say no? It's a great thing to be asked to be a mentor. So, I'd say look for those sorts of people that you can bounce ideas off of.
Great. And of course, events like this, networking
exactly.
events, and, be they physical when the world's back, or virtual. I agree. Just being really sort of having a real sort of, but sort of putting yourself out there really, and networking as much as you can, because then if you have a good sort of network of people from a range of different industries, if you're interviewing or you've got your eye on a job in a certain place, then you can dig into your sort of network and like, who do I know in that industry? Like, what insider tips and info can they give me?
Exactly.
And actually, what you say about researching the industry, what about researching the competition? So let's say you go for a job, you're sitting in the interview, it's an industry that you don't know. What would you say about researching their competition, so you're able to speak to with some authority about who they're competing against?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And, competitor research is huge. Just, and just always look at the competitor set, see what the competitors are doing as opposed to them. And I'd always say, like, there are always going to be things that the competition is doing that they aren't doing. And just have a list of competitors, just know who their competitors are. It may not be their exact competitor set, but at least in the interview, they'll be like, okay, this person knows who some of our competitors are. They know who we're up against. They know what they're doing, what we aren't doing. And and maybe if you can find some examples of things that they are doing that this company that you're interviewing for isn't doing, maybe bring that up. But in a positive way, and say, have you guys thought about doing this? I noticed that your competition is doing this and things. And, it could spark a conversation. They could be like, oh, we thought about doing that, but we haven't had the resource and things. And so, it's just a great way to get the conversation flowing and show that you know what you're talking about that industry and about that.
And that's a good point you make about doing it in a positive way, because I've actually, so, I've interviewed people where they've sat there and torn some of my work to shreds. And, you know, you obviously think, oh, that's great, they've got new ideas, but part of you is going,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
nothing
not.
wrong with that.
Yeah.
So you have to, and that probably says more about me. But yeah, you need to, yeah, you're right. You need to not bowl in there and sort of badmouth everything they're doing.
Yeah.
You're right, in a positive way. It's a good idea.
Yeah, there's a way to say that, there's a way to say, because like you say, people have put a lot of time and effort into whatever they've created. So you don't want to go in there and trash that. You want to say that, oh, whatever you've done so far has been fantastic. Have you thought about this as well? And just, an addition to the great work you've done and stuff. So that's the kind of thing I mean. I like, yeah, as you say, you don't want to go in there and just put yourself on the back foot and say, oh, everything you guys have done is rubbish and I can do it a hell of a lot better. So it just makes you seem like an arrogant person.
Yeah. I've interviewed a few of those in my time. And then what do you think? I tell you what, actually, a question that I've been asked before in interviews, and I think when I've been sort of moving from industry, across industries, is, and in fact, yeah, I had the founder of one of these businesses asked me, which I thought was really interesting, to what extent do you think marketers, a good marketer sort of can market anything? Doesn't matter. Can market paper, can market software, doesn't matter. You don't really need to worry too much about what you're marketing, market anything. Versus, having a sort of specialism. And so I think when you're moving from different careers, you might come up against that question, because people might question, is this industry, is this type of product or service your sort of passion and your area of expertise?
Sure.
And yeah, what would you say if someone's up against a question like that?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question, and it kind of boils down to the heart of this whole thing, is that can you market anything? So can you market software, tax software, or high-end watches, to take my example earlier? And it's always, there is something to be said about specialist industry knowledge, and you get a lot of insight into an industry. But again, if you do come across that sort of question, it's always about, like we've talked about before, just showing what you can do that can be applied there, and how the same sort of marketing you've done in a previous role can be moved over and applied. Some things may not be, and I totally get that, but find the things that you did in a previous role, that can be brought to another one. Like if you made a killer video, for example, can you do that with this new industry? There could be some very specific, like let's say I used to do very specific property brochures and things like that, and very much they were for that industry. But find something that you can translate to this new industry, and take it from there, and show how the thing you did there could work in this new company as well.
Yeah, great. And I also find that if people are asking that question, and actually when I was asked that question, it was from the founder of this business. So I knew that, this product that they had was like his baby, and he made this product. Yeah. So he doesn't want to hear someone say, doesn't matter. I can market anything. I'm a spin wizard. So you want to reassure people that even if that product, service, that industry isn't what you do always value becoming an expert. So I think it's really important to reassure people that whatever you market, and in every stage of your career, you've made sure you've embedded yourself in that community, in that audience. You understand the product or service thoroughly, and so what benefits to pull out, what etc. I think that's really important, rather than just saying doesn't matter, I can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is the temptation to just say, oh, I can market anything, but you're absolutely right. So people get really invested in things that they've produced and companies they lead and stuff. So it's all about like that translation of marketing. And if you've done the research, and you could even in the past say that how, when you did move industries, let's say for example you moved industries in the past, you could say what the learning curve was for you for that industry, how you embedded yourself, like you say, and what you did to actually research that industry and get, learn about it and get embedded in it as quickly as possible, and show them that, I took knowledge from a previous role, brought it with me to this new role while learning about the industry and, increasing my knowledge about it. And I want to do the same thing with this industry. So, you're absolutely right. Like, go in there with that sort of learning mindset. And I think they'll work beneficially in your favor.
Yeah, that's a great tip, to try and demonstrate that you're a sort of fast onboarder.
Yeah.
And if you can say, I've done it before,
Mm-hmm.
and in the space of 10 minutes I was an absolute expert or whatever. That's a great tip. That's really and just some more on the sort of tools and resources in terms of finding more out about a different industry or things. I wonder, to what extent do you think that the content marketing that company that you're interviewing for, or anyone else in that industry is putting out, to what extent is that a sort of valuable resource for you?
Yeah, it's a great resource because, just reading a company's blog, you can understand what they're doing, what excites them, what interests them, what they're talking about. And you can kind of just go back and read 10 blog articles, and I think you'll understand the tone of the company, the way they talk, how passionate they are about the industry and stuff. So that's a great starting point. Just read a company's blog, read white papers if they do them, look at webinars, watch videos. If they've got a podcast, listen to that, and do that for not even that company, but do it for their competitors, do it for other companies in the industry, and you start to get an understanding of it. And you can always do desk research as well. But I think, company's own content library is a great place to start.
Actually, I've just noticed Barney's got an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Did working on the sort of shop floor for BMW have any impact on your actions or views when you worked directly with that company later on in your career?
That's a really interesting question. I think the difference was that I was so far down the food chain when I was doing my unpaid internship that I don't think I got to see the real BMW. And so my view of it was just that I was there for 3 month stint and I was doing really boring work. But when I actually started working with BMW, then you get to see the real company. You get to interact with them as a business. You get to see how passionate they are for the products they produce. And just BMW as a company is great. And I looked at that unpaid internship with BMW as a stepping stone. I didn't take any negative view of the company. So I didn't have any sort of negative implications of the company going in. I saw them as a fresh client when I went in there, and I learned a lot about them and what a wonderful company they are to work for and with.
And actually, talking about the sort of household brand names like BMW, what about diversity in your sort of career or on anyone's sort of CV in terms of big household name corporates versus smaller businesses in niche areas, for example? Do you find that bigger known corporates, recognizable businesses on a CV will be more beneficial than a lot of small businesses that people wouldn't recognize?
It's interesting because everybody wants to work for household names, and they're just it's great to have in your CV. But let's say you can't get into them, and let's say somebody hasn't done a graduate program at a big business or something, and they're a bit further on in their career. It is harder to get into then. And, then again, it's similar to what we've been talking about. You then get labeled as an SME marketer, for example, or as an agency marketer, and that's all you can do. And then, you can't really move into the big brands. But, if you work for a company that works with big brands, like I did, that could be a stepping stone. You could say, oh, I worked for a company that worked with BMW, or I worked for a company that worked with Disney, for example. and then you could go and then do another stepping stone, maybe work for BMW's dealership or something, and then move up the scale. So again, it's all about those stepping stones, the plan you need to make, and just the strategic way you go about, like, say, what's the next step? How do I get to that big brand name? If I want to work for Facebook, do I need to then, what do I need to do to get there, for example? The example of that, Facebook's really hard to get into, but what steps can I take to get to the place I want to get to?
And I think I'd also sort of add that, so I went from a big US owned corporate to a Brighton based smaller business, and because the pace of corporate life was painfully slow, so I would, particularly if you're like in the beginning of your career, I would caution against thinking, I want to work in the big companies and the big brands, because you can move much faster in smaller companies, and you can experiment more. And often in big large corporates, like, creativity gets killed by having an idea, but the sort of bureaucracy you have to go through to get anything off the ground is just sort of mind-numbing. So and actually, in terms of sort of transferable skills, I sort of faced that in an interview from a big corporate to a small, fast-moving tech company, and I was asked, "How are you going to make that transition?" So also, you need to think about what your answers are going to be and how you're going to position yourself if you're moving, even same industry, if you're moving from big to small, because there will be that issues of completely different work cultures.
You're absolutely right.
Skill set.
Yeah, I think fast moving smaller companies, sometimes you get to learn a lot more, and you can actually like move around as well and say, oh, this is great. If you're starting out in your career, and you could say, oh, this is great, I want to like experience a different team or something. And I think smaller companies might be more receptive to you just jumping around and experiencing a bit different, like a different team or a different department as well. So it's a great way to build up your skill set. But again, there is something to be said about big corporates as well, and just how good they are as businesses and stuff as well.
And it would be interesting actually to get your thoughts on in-house versus agency, because especially with your consulting work, you've sort of done both. And what's your advice for people who want to transition from one to the other?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a really interesting thing. I've done both. So I have, I've worked for brands, I've worked for tech, and now I'm working in-house for an agency. So it's showing that transferable skill set that you have and the things you've learned working in those different roles that you could bring to this new role. And that question does come up. It's come up for me as well. Like, you were working externally as a consultant. Now you want to move in-house. How are you going to make that jump and stuff? And it's about saying that, okay, these are the things, even though as a consultant, this is how I embedded myself into my client's department, or I was an extension of their marketing team, and these are the things I did. So basically you could say, like, for me, I would actually go into a client's office for 2 days a week and sit with their marketing team. And that experience I got was the same as doing an in-house role. So it kind of, you just have to say, like, these are the things I learned while doing that I can relate here as well.
Barney's just dropped in a toughie. This is a tough question. Right, brace yourself, Anne. So Barney said he noticed that your company works on helping businesses move into international markets. What's your take on the early impacts of Brexit on UK companies exporting their products or services into Europe? This is a real toughie.
Yeah. So for us, the thing we've seen is that the thing we always say to our clients is, yes, there are challenges if you want to export to Europe now, and whether right or wrong, I'm not going to go into any of that stuff. But there are challenges. There is a bit more bureaucracy now, or whatever you want to call it, to doing business in Europe. But we just say, look further afield. Look at emerging markets like Africa. Look at India. Look at Russia. Look at China. Look at all these markets that maybe they weren't on your radar before. Like at the moment. At the moment, you thought, oh, I'm just gonna go into Europe because it's so massive and it's easy to do business. But there are other places that are also easy to do business. The U.S. market, for example, huge, like a big focus for us, and the thing we're focusing on is Africa, and Africa is really up and coming. So I would say look further afield. If there are challenges in one part of the world, look at another part of the world that you could work with. And that's why we're always trying to highlight new places to do business and things that you may not have even thought about, where maybe they're different challenges, but they're easier to overcome than something bigger somewhere else.
It makes me think. I just yesterday wrote an article on the Lucidity website, getlucidity.com, on flanking attack strategy, where you take, obviously where you are attacking a competitor by looking at one of their weaknesses. So if everyone in your all your competition are focused on Europe, or that, then take a look at one of the geographies that they're less focused on and flank and attack them.
Yeah, exactly.
We've sort of gone a bit off topic here, haven't we?
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting thing, but again, it's look at what somebody else isn't doing and do that. So it could relate to your competitors, it could relate to your CV, it could relate to anything. Just look at what somebody else isn't doing and do that. Yes,
that's a great tip in terms of CV.
Yeah.
And then just sort of finally, it'd be great to get your thoughts on are there particular marketers who you follow or look up to in the industry that you'd recommend, the rest of us follow for insights into a sort of successful generalist career?
Yeah, so my thing is a bit left field, but I look up to people that, they overcame things in their career. They maybe weren't meant to be where they are, but somehow are there. So, it's one person that I actually listened to an episode of a podcast about this, and his name is Roberto Guazueta, and he was a former CEO of Coca-Cola. He was the first immigrant CEO of Coca-Cola. He came from Havana, Cuba originally, and he oversaw the creation of Diet Coke, Cherry Coke. He helped Coca-Cola purchase Columbia Pictures, and also infamously, he oversaw the whole new Coke debacle. But he survived that, and it's something to be said for somebody who comes from a different country to then come to a company like Coca-Cola, which is very American. It's as American as apple pie, and embed yourself in that company, overcome challenges, and become the CEO of that company. I think it says a lot about his personality, and it's a fascinating story. So the whole new Coke debacle, it's not what people think, and it's I would suggest people go out and read up about it. It's fascinating. And the other person who I really look up to is a Pakistani squash champion from the 80s called Jahangir Khan. And some say he's the best squash player of all time. And this person was born in a tiny village in the north of Pakistan. And he was a very small and weak child. And he overcame some massive challenges. His brother, who was also a squash player, died during a squash match. So he was in the middle of playing a squash match, and he had a heart attack. And he almost quit the sport because of that, but he went on to have the longest unbeaten streak in sports history of 555 matches. I'm not a massive sports fan, but just that sort of story is so uplifting, and it can be applied to your career as a marketer. It can be applied to just overcoming any sort of challenges in your life, and I think it just highlights a few points I was making earlier. Look to things further afield than what you're used to. Look at diverse people, diverse industries, and try to apply them to your own situation.
And that's a pretty impressive stat on the CV, of course.
Yeah,
That win streak. And that's what we
Yep.
need to do as marketers. Put some numbers against a win streak like that.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Az. That was great to talk to you, and it's really interesting to hear about how your career's panned out, and then what, you know, how we can all learn from that, and you know, move around and try different things. That's great. Thanks everyone for the questions that you've put into the chat. Some really interesting ones there. If you've got any other questions for Az, I'm sure Az, you wouldn't mind if people email you afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'll stick my details in the chat. So
great, excellent. Yeah, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those sessions. We were, if anyone wants to share any of the things that they were talking about there, that would be really excellent. I think you might be able to unmute if you wanted to talk, or drop something in the chat if anyone had any particular useful sort of insights there.
I don't mind sharing a bit of what I said. I was speaking to Milan about. We had a bit of a chat about difficult conversations with clients, i.e. things like telling them their website's really bad, or that kind of stuff. So I think, as sort of touched on that a little bit, positive kind of, you could improve your website. It could be a lot better, you know, landing pages about all that sort of thing. But obviously, I'm a digital marketer. I feel a duty to tell people not to spend loads of money on PPC before they sort their website out, for example. I think that's an ethical thing to do. It can be quite difficult though if people are approaching you, and obviously it's kind of in your interest to take their business. But I think, you know, maybe work with them down the line, that sort of thing. So yeah, we're just talking about that kind of challenge. Also client expectations against budgets, all the typical things that people have to deal with. I've got £1,000, you know, it's not going to do much, but I want the world, that sort of concept. So yeah, we were just talking about those kind of things.
Oh yeah, that's great. And yeah, that positive sort of spin on your advice, be it in a client relationship or in an interview, is really important. That's a really important skill to have.
Yeah, I'd also say, like, if you can show just how knowledgeable you are and you know what you're talking about, so when you deliver that sort of maybe slightly negative news, they'll go, oh, he knows what he's talking about. Like, you know, you could just frame it and say, you know, I've done this in the past and it's achieved this, so I think you should think about doing it, or something like that. So they then go, oh, this person knows what he's talking about, and I'll take his or her advice on board.
Yeah, I think the other point I'd make is that I think most clients know their websites are bad, probably more than you do, and you might feel embarrassed. But when you say it, they'll probably say, well, actually, yeah, no, it's not that great, is it? Because they know, obviously, their business much better than you do.
We were actually talking about, we were talking with Kate, and Kate has her academic background is in psychology. And we had a sort of a discussion about different backgrounds and the way you get into marketing. And I think, and sort of Kate agrees, one of the most important, one of the most fundamental skills I think you can have as a marketer is empathy, right? So, but above all the technical skills and everything, if you can't, it's all about empathizing, right? It's all about putting yourself in the position of your target audience and then thinking about what resonates. I think there's so much attention to understanding analytics and conversion and, you know, all the things of digital marketing. You just need to make sure you don't forget about how to talk to people and relate to people, and you know, how to appeal.
Yeah, I saw something interesting actually. Someone said the other day on LinkedIn, they said I can't remember their particular sort of skill set, but they were approaching a client and they were in some sort of process, and the client was a vegan company, and they asked them during the process, are you a vegan? And that basically, by saying no, that disqualified them from helping that company with their marketing, which I would disagree with. I say you can empathize what it's like to be a vegan. It's not magical power. So yeah, I had a lot of debate about that. I think a lot of people saying you could work for them, and some people saying no, you'd have to be a vegan. But yeah.
But I think you're right. I think a lot of marketers are, you know, you don't have marketers that are always represent your target audience.
Yeah.
How could you even possibly do that? So marketers have to know how to put themselves in the mind. And if we go around doing that, it's saying that you can't empathize, then that's when you get into issues where there's not diversity and there's not equal opportunities, and so that is an
I would
interesting.
always I just add to that a lot of people always say that B2B marketing is different to B2C, but at the end of the day, you're still marketing to people and having an understanding of that there's a person at the other end of the phone, or somebody whose experiences could be similar to you if you could frame them that way, and finding out people's pain points as well, and just saying this could be happening to me, and how do I show that person that I understand what they're going through. And at the end of the day, we're all people, and I think you're absolutely right that empathy is huge. It's very important.
And B2B people spend time in B2C spaces.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people will say, well, I wouldn't, if I'm B2B, would I be on Facebook? Well, those people are also people at the end of the day on Facebook. So maybe if you have the right strategy, you could be on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, conscious of time now, I think we could go on talking for hours and hours. But what we can do is, if you want to carry on any of the conversations from today, you can check out the community group on the Silicon Brighton website. So I think we had a QR code for that up earlier, but just go on the website and you can check that out. You can join that for free. And it's a great place to connect with others in this Marketing Talk community and to learn about all the other events that are happening. So thanks everyone so much for joining us, and thanks to Az for your talk today and for sharing your insight. Also a huge thanks to Sean at Event 7, who works really hard behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly. Honestly, the slickest online event management I've ever experienced. So I can highly recommend Sean and the Event 7 team for your tech support at any events that you're running. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed hosting. I have to say, not the usual host, but thanks very much for Steve and the team for asking me to do it. It's been great. It's been fun.
Thanks, Megan. You were great. It was great chatting to you as well. And also, I just said I've put my LinkedIn in the chat, so if anybody wants to get in touch with me, just feel free to add me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, Megan, thanks so much for helping out today. Absolutely brilliant. And as fantastic. I'll make sure everyone's LinkedIn profiles go out to everyone that attended afterwards.
Great.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Happy Friday, all.
Happy Friday. Let's go have a beer.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you later.
Thanks now. Bye.